name's Brian. This is the first ever ASMR video I've made. I've been listening to ASMR for a lot of years, a long time. There's a lot of different ASMR artists that I follow. I listen to it most nights going to sleep. I thought maybe pay it back, give it a wee go myself, try and make some wee videos so that people can maybe get some sleep, a bit of relaxation. You know how it goes. So I've decided that I'm going to read some of this book that my wife, my beautiful wife, bought me for my birthday a couple of years ago. And to be honest, I've never actually got around to reading much of. So it's a good way for me to read it and then also make a wee video. Let's have a wee look. So this is compiled by Shaun Usher. Letters of note. Correspondence deserving of a wider audience. Funny, tragic, brilliantly incisive, historic, lyrical, romantic, and studiedly offensive. This stupendous compendium of letters, ancient and modern, is my book of the year. You will never tire of it, said Stephen Fry, British icon. Letters of Note is a collection of over 100 of the world's most entertaining, inspiring and unusual letters, based on the seismically popular website of the same name, an online museum of correspondence visited by over 70 million people. From Virginia Woolf's heartbreaking suicide letter to Queen Elizabeth II's recipe for drop scones sent to President Eisenhower. From the first recorded use of the expression OMG in a letter to Sir Winston Churchill, to Gandhi's appeal for calm addressed to Hitler, and from Iggy Pop's beautiful letter of advice to a troubled young fan, to Leonardo da Vinci's remarkable job application letter. Letters of Note is a celebration of the power of written correspondence, which captures the humour, seriousness, sadness and brilliance that make up all of our lives. Sounds good. Canongate, Edinburgh, London. First published in Great Britain in 2015 by Canongate Books Limited in conjunction with Unbound. For Karina. Let's have a wee look and see what we have. So, wins, drops, cons. Queen Elizabeth II to US President Dwight D. Eisenhower. From Hell, Jack Ripper to George Lusk. Wind the Clock, E.B. White to Mr. Nadeau. I Am to be Executed, from Mary Stuart to Henry III of France. There's quite a few interesting ones here. Bill Hicks on freedom of speech to a priest. Many. Groucho Marx to Woody Allen, there is no money in answering letters. Patrick Hitler to US President Franklin D. Roosevelt, to hell with Hitler. Gave to MTV, my muse is not a horse. Clementine Churchill to Winston Churchill, you're so kind. You're not so kind as you used to be. He changed. You changed, man. Ludwig van Beethoven to his brothers. I've set myself up for a fail here. The Heiligenstadt Testament. I think that's okay there, actually. An Idiot of the 33rd Degree, Mark Twain to J.H. Todd. Do not grieve me, Fyodor Dostoevsky to Mikhail Dostoevsky. For the sake of humanity, Mohandas Gandhi to Adolf Hitler. Sounds like a good thing to start a ASMR channel in. Gandhi. He called for relaxation. Excuse me. For the sake of humanity, Mohandas K. Gandhi to Adolf Hitler, June 23rd, 1939. On June 23rd, 1939, as tensions mounted in Europe following Germany's occupation of Czechoslovakia, Mohandas Gandhi, the famously non-violent leader of the Indian independence movement, wrote a letter to the man who was orchestrating what would become World War II, the leader of Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler. As it happens, Gandhi's letter, a clear and concise plea for Hitler to avoid war for the sake of humanity, never reached its intended recipient due to an intervention by the British government. Just over a month later, the world looked on in horror as Germany invaded Poland, thus beginning the largest, most deadly conflict in the history of the world. So this is a letter. So, dear friend, friends have been urging me to write to you for the sake of humanity, but I have resisted their request because of the feeling that any letter from me would be an impertinence. Something tells me that I must not calculate and that I must make my appeal for whatever it may be worth. It is quite clear that you are today the one person in the world who can prevent a war which may reduce humanity to the savage state. Must you pay that price for an object, however worthy it may appear to you to be? Will you listen to the appeal of one who has celebratingly shunned the method of war, not without considerable success? Anyway, I anticipate your forgiveness if I have erred in writing to you. I remain your sincere friend, Mohandas K. Gandhi. To Herr Hitler, Berlin, Germany. And he did never receive it. Something tells me he wouldn't have listened, even if he did. Jackie Robinson to the US President Dwight D. Eisenhower. 17 million Negroes cannot wait for the hearts of men to change. May 13th, 1958. Jackie Robinson was an exceptionally talented baseball player. In fact, such was his talent that in 1947 he obliterated an unwritten policy within baseball that had, until that point, prevented players of African descent from joining teams in either the minor or major leagues. He then went on to feature in 6 World Series and win multiple awards, not to mention being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962. In 1957, he retired from the sport and instead took an active role in the political world, fighting, amongst other things, racial segregation. He sent this powerful letter to US President Eisenhower in 1958 in response to a speech in which he had called for patience from African Americans in their fight for civil rights. Chock full of nuts. Received in the White House. May 14th at 11:36 a.m. 1958. It's quite precise. The President, the White House, Washington, D.C. Dear Mr. President, I was sitting in the audience at the summit meeting of Negro leaders yesterday when you said that we must have patience. On hearing you say this, I felt like standing up and saying, "Oh no, not again." I respectfully remind you, sir, that we have been the most patient of all people. When you said that we must have self-respect, I wondered how we could have self-respect and remain patient considering the treatment accorded us through the years. 17 million Negroes cannot do as you suggest and wait for the hearts of men to change. We want to enjoy now the rights that we feel we are entitled to as Americans. This we cannot do unless we pursue aggressively goals which all other Americans achieved over 150 years ago. As the Chief Executive of our nation, I respectfully suggest that you unwittingly crush the spirit of freedom in Negroes by constantly urging forbearance and give hope to those pro-segregation leaders like Governor Philbus, who would take from us even those freedoms we now enjoy. Your own experience with Governor Philbus is proof enough that forbearance is not eventual integration. Forbearance and not eventual integration is the goal the pro-segregation leaders seek. In my view, an unequivocal statement backed up by actions such as you demonstrated you could take last fall, dealing with Governor Philbus, if it became necessary, would let it be known that America is determined to provide, in the near future, for Negroes the freedoms that we are entitled to under the Constitution. Respectfully yours, Jackie Robinson. I wrote a book called The Godfather, from Mario Puzo to Marlon Brando. Letter number 69. I wrote a book called The Godfather, from Mario Puzo to Marlon Brando, January 23rd, 1970. In 1978, before Francis Ford Coppola had taken his place in the director's chair, The Godfather author Mario Puzo scribbled and sent the following letter to Marlon Brando, the one man he was determined to see take on the role of Vito Corleone in the forthcoming movie adaptation of his novel. Although Brando was keen, the studio refused Puzo's request to cast him, due largely to the actor's reputation as a live wire with notoriously overbearing demands and diminishing box office. Then Coppola came on board, filmed Brando in character as the Don, and screened it for the executives at Paramount. They quickly changed their tune. The Godfather went on to break records and win multiple awards. Brando's magnificent turn as Vito Corleone netted him an Oscar for Best Actor, which he famously refused. Mario Puzo, 866 Manor Lane, Bayshore, Long Island, New York, 11706, January 23rd. Dear Mr. Brando, I wrote a book called The Godfather, which has had some success, and I think you're the only actor who can play the part of the Godfather. Who can play the Godfather with that quiet force and irony. Brackets, the book is an ironical comment on American society, close brackets, that the part requires. I hope you'll read the book and like it well enough to use whatever powers you can to get the role. I'm writing Paramount to the same effect for whatever good that will do. I know this was presumptuous of me, but the least I can do for the book is try. I really think that you'd be tremendous. Needless to say, I've been an admirer of your art. Mario Puzo. A mutual friend, Jeff Brown, gave me your address. Yeah, I can see why that needed to be transcribed. Let's see. The smartest people have got terrible handwriting, don't they? My cats have got a wee scratch post on the side of the table that I'm leaning on. Makes it quite nice and nice. What next? Bill Hicks on freedom of speech. I guess you can tell a bit about my character by some of the selections I'm making. Letter number 6. Bill Hicks on freedom of speech. Bill Hicks to a priest. June 8th, 1993. As an outspoken stand-up comedian with strong, unbending views on the most divisive of subjects, the late Bill Hicks was no stranger to controversy during his all-too-brief career. In May 1993, less than a year before he succumbed to pancreatic cancer at the age of 32, a live recording of Hicks' Revelation show was broadcast on television in the UK. Shortly afterwards, deeply offended by its blasphemous content, a priest wrote to the broadcaster, Channel 4, and complained about the recent screening. After reading the complaint, Hicks, never one to avoid a discussion, replied to the priest directly by letter. 8th of June 1993. Dear Sir, after reading your letter expressing your concerns regarding my special revelations, I felt duty-bound to respond to you in the hopes of clarifying my position on the points that you brought up, and perhaps enlighten you as to who I really am. Where I come from, America, there exists this wacky concept called freedom of speech, which many people feel is one of the paramount achievements in mankind's mental development. I myself am a strong supporter of the right of freedom of speech, as I'm sure most people would be if they truly understood the concept. Freedom of speech means you can support the right of other people to say exactly those ideas which you do not agree with. Otherwise, you don't believe in freedom of speech, which rather only those ideas which you believe to be acceptably stated. Seeing as how there are so many different beliefs in the world, and as it would be virtually impossible for all of us to agree on any one belief, you may begin to realise just how important an idea like freedom of speech really is. The idea basically states, while I don't agree or care for what you're saying, I do support your right to say it, for herein lies true freedom. You say you found my material offensive and blasphemous. I find it interesting that you feel your beliefs are denigrated or threatened, when I'd be willing to bet you've never received a single letter complaining about your beliefs or asking why they are allowed to be. Brackets. If you have received such letter, it definitely did not come from me. Close brackets. Furthermore, I imagine a quick perusal of an average week of television programming would reveal many more shows of a religious nature than one of my shows, which are called specials by virtue of the fact that they are very rarely on. All I am doing in Revelations is giving my point of view in my language based on my experiences, much the same way religious broadcasters may organise their programmes. While I found many of the religious shows I viewed over the years not to be my liking, or in line with my own beliefs, I've never considered it my place to exert any great type of censorship than changing the channel, or better yet, turning off the TV completely. Now for the part of your letter I found most disturbing. In support of your position of outrage, you posit the hypothetical scenario regarding the possibility angry reactions of Muslims to material they might find similarly offensive. Here is my question to you. Are you tacitly condoning the violent terrorism of a handful of thugs to whom the idea of freedom of speech and tolerance is perhaps as foreign as Christ's message itself? If you are somehow implying that their intolerance to contrary beliefs is justifiable, admirable, or perhaps even preferable to one of acceptance and forgiveness, then I wonder what your true beliefs really are. If you had watched my entire show, you would have noticed in my summation of my beliefs the fervent plea to the governments of the world to spend less money on the machinery of war and more on feeding, clothing, and educating the poor and needy of the world, a not so unchristian sentiment at that. Ultimately, the message in my material is a call for understanding rather than ignorance, peace rather than war, forgiveness rather than condemnation, and love rather than fear. While this message may have understandably been lost on your ears, brackets due to my presentation, close brackets, I assure you the thousands of people I played to in my tours in the United Kingdom got it. I hope I helped answer some of your questions. Also, I hope you consider this as an invitation to keep the open lines of communication. Please feel free to contact me personally with comments, thoughts or questions if you so choose. If not, I invite you to enjoy my 2 upcoming specials entitled Muhammad the Twit and Buddha You Fat Pig, brackets joke, close brackets. Sincerely, Bill Hicks. You probably noticed quite a bit of a skip halfway through that there. My phone ran out of battery. So I had to recharge it. Anyway, I think that will do me for now. I'm going to maybe read some more of this, make a few more wee videos, we'll see. I've got a bunch of books, so I might start doing some of these videos. One of the channels that I enjoy watching is Library of Whispers. I really enjoy her. The lady in that, her soothing voice and nice and relaxing manner. As I said, there's many different ASMR channels that I follow. I may make a wee video about my favourites at some point, I'll see. But for now, I hope everyone had a nice Christmas and a happy new year when it comes to you.